Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-filled discussion for Marvel Television's Daredevil, Born Again. Resist, rebel, rebuild, because we are the city without fear. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-filled discussion for Marvel Television's Daredevil, Born Again, Season 1. Huge thanks, as always, to our wonderful friends at Marvel Studios Canada and Disney Studios Canada for letting us watch this season so early that we would have the ability to have this spoiler-filled discussion ready for you to go right as soon as you've watched the finale of this excellent season of MCU goodness. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, TV shows, games, and all things Geekcentric. Joining me for this spoiler-filled breakdown, we've got my fellow vigilantes yet again. He puts the law in J-Law, but he's no longer jovial. No. Instead, he's pure justice. He's Justin, the lethal litigating law-breaking Lawrence.
All right. It just feels like it was yesterday that we were doing the spoiler-free. And I think, in fact, it actually was yesterday that
Justin,
we did the spoiler-free.
We're supposed to, it's the allure that
No, I think it's helpful to let them know. I think they should know that we're recording this, fairly early. We don't know what the fan sentiment is outside of 2 episodes of the show. So, it could go either way. We're pretty hot on it though, right? So let's talk about it in spoilers.
And you want to be a vigilante. Oh my gosh, bro. Can't even break a simple rule. But listen, joining right alongside him, he's still wearing a mask, but he's letting his hair fly free like the bullet out of Frank's guns. He's the defender, Darcy, the dubious devil of Hell's Hudson.
I like you got 2 takes on it, so you managed to go with that doobie pun the second time round.
I got it.
You got it in there.
Yeah, you were able to come back around and do it again. Yeah, it was good. That's good. I'm glad you got to take 2 at that one, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, listen, we made it. Season 1 of Daredevil, Born Again, in the bag. How are you two feeling now that we've seen the finale?
I mean, again, same sentiments as our spoiler-free episode, because given that we had already seen the full season there, I really enjoyed it. Again, this finale sets up a lot of what's to come, potentially on the street level of New York, at least, and I think that's why it's really exciting, is because hopefully we'll get to go into this in more than just another Daredevil season, but potentially other movies or shows maybe could focus on the same seedy underworld that we got to see in this series. So yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what part 2 of this chapter is. Part 1 really does end with a and I think you put it best there, Darcy, like a street level focus on what this, air quotes, war for New York is going to look like, or is at least been set up to be. What it's going to look like, obviously, we'll explore in a season 2, and we'll talk about who we hopefully would love to see join the armies on either side, which would be really, really cool to see, either on Kingpin's side or on Daredevil's side. But that said, I think this leaves you with wanting more. I definitely was like, well, that's it. But then I was like, oh, well, of course, there's going to be a season 2. And it just, given this sort of the heavy nature of season 1, I thought there might be not necessarily a closure per se, but just something that felt a little bit more locked off for us to go into a season 2. But given that this was originally slated to be 18 episodes, which I think is I remember when we heard that, we were just like, there's no way it's going to be 18 episodes. And sure enough, it's not going to be 18 episodes. And I think this is a very obvious sort of cut to, we'll take a pause here and we'll now jump back into it in season 2. And it makes sense because now the lines have been drawn, if you will, between Fisk and Daredevil. And we'll see how that evolves in the next chapter of this story. So yeah, like I don't, not to say that I was like disappointed. I guess I was expecting something that had a little bit more closure to it. But it feels like it was very purposely left with like, you have to come back for a season 2, which, you know, is good. It's got me, I'm very excited to see what the next part of the story is going to be about.
Yeah, as we neared the end of this season, one of the things I was starting to worry about was if they were going to speed up this conclusion to this story, and I'm very glad we got a very Empire like story where the
Mhm.
bad guy wins, but we also see a lot of personal growth in our hero to come back fighting strong in the next chapter of the story. And again, the way they handled it, we got the closure that we needed with Matt's journey in his battles with Daredevil's alter ego and all that stuff, and where we leave off with him realizing what he's fighting for, and how, again, like you said, we're getting to see this war almost beginning, and seeing who's going to join the teams. It's so exciting to watch. I loved it.
Yeah, I think I'm with both of you on this, right? It's like I think if we didn't know that we were already getting a second season, that a second season was already in production, that going, into this finale and coming out of this finale, I might have felt a little bit more like, well, I wanted more. But I think, yeah, that feeling of sort of this being the halfway point of this specific story makes it all the more exciting. And if you want to hear our thoughts on the look and feel of the season, the performances, the overall story and pacing of it, you can definitely check out our spoiler-free review, which is out right now. But listen, for you listening right now, keep in mind we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general. So if you haven't watched the entire season, all 9 episodes yet, be sure to do so and then come right back in a snap. And usually, guys, that snap is a reference to Thanos. But in this case, I'm going to say it's an arm snapping in half. Speaking of arm snapping in half, I'm excited to talk about that mid-credit stinger. I want to talk about the ending of this finale, and also where we're going next. But first, I think our listeners deserve to hear maybe our thoughts on where we started in this season, just in case their memories are a little foggy, if you will. So thank you very much.
Good one.
Thank you. Yes. So let's go back and talk about the first episode in full spoilers for each of you. What were your reactions to those first 15 minutes?
Honestly, I was in shock. Bringing back Foggy to take him away so quickly was not something I was expecting. But again, I mentioned how that first episode clearly sets a tone for the series going forward, and that is the moment where we see Matt again driven to his darkest point, and just the way that fight scene ends, where Foggy dies literally after he throws Bullseye, or before he throws Bullseye from the top of this building. Like, it is just one of the most graphic scenes in an MCU show we've gotten to date, and just it hits so hard. So yeah, like that was
it
shocking.
Hits hard for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was watching the episode with headphones, and I had to lift my headphones off my ears for a second.
Very wet and meaty sounding when he hit the ground there. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Justin, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think it's actually the first 18 minutes, 15 minutes if you want to round down, but it's the first. I feel like the first 18 minutes is definitely it's to create a false sense of security.
Yep.
It's throwing us into something that feels safe, feels comfortable. We're reuniting with some old friends. We're so excited to see them. And then we get into this, they're drinking, they're laughing, they're exchanging jokes, they have some romantic nature. So it was really great to get reintroduced to the characters we know and love, until it was all ripped away from us. And, then we get into that brutal, heavy-handed action. We get into some very, as I was talking about in our spoiler-free, some very questionable visual effects. I think that's sort of what took me out of this scene was that, or this moment was that. But I think given what didn't work about the scene for me, the fact that, two things. The fact that Foggy was meant to die always, apparently. This was a fun little factoid that I learned.
But it was supposed to be off screen?
Off screen.
Yeah.
And then it was something that they decided to show with Dario joining, and also the fact that Charlie Cox brought up the fact that he should be, Matt Murdock should be hearing Foggy's heartbeat while he's fighting Bullseye, which just added that emotional weight. And I think those elements were so perfect, right? Like the fact that we see Foggy's death, amazing. The fact that, we have this really visceral, brutal fight that's taking place, and he's monitoring the heart at the same time, highlighting just the sort of heightened abilities of Daredevil and his ability to sort of stay within that moment while fighting, was really great. But again, I come back to the CGI in this scene. It's not just him flying across the building. It was also their take on the one take the one take hallway fight scene. The CGI flying in Daredevil, and then they immediately cut to this combat in the bar, which looked at times like they were doing a little bit of CG work in there, and then it kind of comes through the where the billiards room is. We see a little bit more of this hand to hand. The best part of this whole hand to hand combat scene was the stairs. The stairs up, or when they were going up, that felt
hallway.
real.
We need a tight hallway.
And like that felt real. That felt very like this felt like a take on that, right? Like this whole sequence. But like that moment when he goes up the stairs, when Bullseye goes up the stairs and they're fighting and they're like they're grunting and like throwing punches and their weapons are just bouncing off and everything, that felt very real. That felt like it was all happening naturally. And then they do another nice like fancy do cut, like you could see where they did the cuts to kind of make it feel like it was a one take. And when they get to the ceiling again, we get more of this action that feels a little bit mix of like hand to hand with some light CGI. So I think that there was just some choices that were made to, again, elevate the scene to remind us that this is Daredevil in the MCU and this is what this looks like. But the emotional weight of the scene, what it was meant to do, hits hard because everyone was excited to see Foggy come back. They were looking forward to the sort of buddy cop adventures that Matt Murdock was going to have, and you rip such a key character away for fans in the first episode, in the first 18 minutes of the first episode, to literally set the stage for what would be 9 episodes without him. That's good storytelling in my opinion. Like that was the best part about it, is the fact that they actually had the balls to actually fucking kill him in the first 18 minutes to kind of, hey, we're going to give you back that, sense of security and comfort that and love from Daredevil, but now it's gone. It's a whole new story. So bravo on the writing for choosing to do that so boldly at the top of the of the season.
Yeah, I think it's coming into that scene, like you said, that false sense of security. I remember it feeling so cheesy and the dialogue kind of feeling a little goofy, but yeah, they shock the ever-living shit out of you with that shot. I jumped. And then you've got Bullseye coming in through the smoke and through the fog, and he says, "Hello, Karen." And 100%, and this one is just because I just came off binging all of season 3, I completely thought he was about to say, "It's nice to see you again." But he didn't have time because Daredevil just tackled the crap out of him before he had the opportunity to say that. But I bet if Daredevil was just a few seconds later, we would have heard Benjamin saying that. And then, I think rewatching that sequence a bunch of times, because I've been watching the reactions. It's one of my, it's always fun to sort of see other geeks reacting to those sequences. And there's a ton of videos online now, and rewatching it kind of sparked a question in my head for each of you that I thought was actually really interesting, which is, when Karen is there and she's sobbing, her phenomenal acting job from Deborah Ann Woll here, but she's sobbing over Foggy's body, and yes, you hear that big slam into the ground of Ben's body. She looks back. For either of you, do you think that was her afraid that it was Matt's body, or do you think it was her worried that she lost Matt to his darker side and then he actually finally crossed the line?
I think it was definitely a fear for Matt falling, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he was monitoring Foggy's heartbeat that entire fight, he seemed pretty sloppy. Just like, I feel like he was almost too focused on what was happening just outside. Like, he was not on the top of his game, and that could have easily, like, Karen obviously understanding Matt's powers, maybe knows that he was focusing so hard on Foggy that he wasn't at his fullest. Like,
and she calls him out, like he says, like, I heard your heartbeats in episode 9, right? And so that kind of brings up this whole idea that she's aware that he has these powers and it's not fair that he can do these things. But yeah, I think that, to your point, yes, I think she's probably aware to a certain degree his capabilities and what he's able to do. I honestly think what happened was she heard the fall and she didn't know what she was going to turn around to. She was hoping she wasn't turning around to see, Matt on the ground. But then also, I don't think she's really concerned about taking the law into her own hand. That's why she aligns so well with Punisher. Like, she's okay with people dying if they've done bad things. So I feel like I guess to a certain degree,
she did struggle quite a bit with killing Wesley, right? So
sure,
but for her to kind of be
she
like,
still did it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like,
and she had that gun. She had that gun ready to go.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, she was ready. She was glocked and ready to go. Right. Like, so I feel like she has a relationship with Punisher, and I think that relation stems and even in the show, it always felt like that relation stems from understanding the law differently. Right. Like, it doesn't, like, not everybody always gets the justice that, that they deserve, but sometimes justice can be dished out by someone who is, that understands the law. So again, I think that she has no problem worrying about, if he was dead or not, or if Matt actually killed him. I think though she was like worried, who is she going to turn around?
She just lost one friend. Is she losing
exactly?
Her
is she losing
friend?
another one? Right.
Yeah.
So she turned around and I think that was very much that reaction. That's at least what I thought from it. Right. I don't think she was worried that Poindexter had, killed Matt. So
interesting.
But it's interesting that he took so many knives to the body.
Like, oh my gosh, it looked like a freaking
endless amount.
Cactus.
And it was cool to see how Bullseye was killing all of these cops, like, as he was going around. And again, that's part of like where that CGI is coming through and stuff like that. Well, it was sure horrifying, but it was also really clever. Like, he used a pool. I think he used a cue ball. Yeah, like
it was crazy. Yeah,
he used a stick. He did all sorts of stuff. And again, I applaud them for trying. For them doing the effort of trying to make it feel like a long take. But again, like, I don't know, maybe it's just too much of like being in production or working in production, and you can kind of see some of those elements. But the strongest, most consistent part of that whole fight was when Bullseye goes up the stairs and they start fighting in that tight hallway leading to the roof. That was cool. That grunting, the way things were bouncing around, and
oh my gosh,
just the energy that they were giving, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, seeing Matt's batons bounce off the walls in those tight corridors, you're like, this is what I wanted to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
and that to me is like, that's great. Like, that's what I want to see Daredevil. I don't need to see him like jumping swinging
I don't need
through and
Spider-Man lands. I don't need another swinger in this universe.
And when he lands on the fire escape, like when that's shot, that was like, and the theme song kicks in.
Oh, that's clearly, again, they're going for that comic book cover moment. Which
like
Daredevil,
you got to give them a little bit of credit for at least trying to nail that visual, right?
Yes,
but
maybe.
If it took you out, I get it.
But like, he looked rubbery up, and like you can literally see the transition of where it's like CGI rubber into a man. Like, I don't know. It just, again, I know Dario's talked about the fact that, they had more resources and they had a lot more flexibility. But then Sana said in our interview, like, do we have more resources? And I feel like it's, it is probably 50-50 in that, he's probably right. Dario has been able to do a lot more and ask for more that could probably be executed with a budget that he wasn't necessarily able to achieve with something like Punisher. But that said, is it really going to meet the levels of feeling as authentic? Like, they did some great stuff, like from the behind the scenes that I've seen, where it's like even that shot of him flying in to intercept Bullseye. Like, someone jumped and he flew in, and they had another camera suspended behind him flying with him. Right. So like, there just wasn't enough of that, I think, in the actual sequence. I was surprised at the fact that it was just like sort of a quick take, and then it just jumps to like them falling into the bar. So I don't know. I feel like the visual treatment to the whole sequence felt a little rough to me, and a little almost like this was definitely an add-on moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, this was something that was written and in the sort of post writer strike, and like then tacked on, and I think even Dario confirming that Foggy's death was supposed to happen off screen, and now they've they've now brought that in, it's clear that that was the case, and they just elevated the scene to say like he's Daredevil, he's the MCU Daredevil, so we need to make this feel like he's high end.
Yeah, and I completely hear the gripes on the visual side. I do think though, we were talking about the batons flying all over the place.
Mhm.
Seeing him in such tight quarters throw the baton and then catch it brought me immediately back to the first time I ever saw Cap on, MCU Cap on screen throw the shield like a frisbee and then catch it off of a bounce. Like it brought me right back there, and it's like, this is Daredevil action that is the right Daredevil action. And I completely agree with you, Justin. I would 10 times prefer the visual effects to be focused there than the thwip of flying around
For
like
sure.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, and just like another note, like we're gonna like I don't based on like what we've seen through this entire show, like there's other I think better examples of real great hand-to-hand combat,
Mhm.
like Daredevil and Muse. I thought was a really great fight sequence. So like I think that like even then it feels so raw. It feels so like it feels like what you remember of Daredevil, where it is just like a brawl fight. So I think that that element worked for me, and I think if there was anything to just kind of differentiate from that to what I was talking about before, it is just how sometimes that felt a little artificial versus something like this Muse fight that felt like really in the moment, like really raw, right? But it was cool to see aspects like you said, Nate, which is deflecting like the batons and stuff like that. We haven't really seen that before, so it's cool to see it in this capacity in the show.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like that Muse fight, you're bringing it up, and it's cool how that one also has a timeline going with uh, the fact that Angelo is on the table during that entire fight scene, and he's constantly trying to get back there. And Muse is just, it was a really great, again, putting a timeline on this fight that would otherwise be really cool. But now we are all like, he's got to wrap this up. She's in trouble type thing. It was really
Mhm.
neat. I really enjoyed that whole fight scene. Well, Muse, I appreciate how they brought that character in. I feel like Justin said during the spoiler, we thought he'd be around a bit more, but it kind of wasn't. I don't. I
I
liked
don't
it.
want to. I don't want to jump ahead. So
Before we
we'll
get there, let me
yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, you brought up Muse.
No, it's all good. I get it. Like, I think the Muse stuff, especially in the marketing, it was very sort of hyped up quite a bit, and I think it may have underperformed a little bit as far as what we were looking for. I mean, besides that incredible fight sequence, like you mentioned, Justin. So I wanted to kind of get into this. We're getting all hyped up about the beginning and the amazing combat in this series, and we're going to get back to the hype moments. We're going to talk about our favorite moments of this season. But before we do, we're going to take a little bit of a dip. We're going to go into the, get our channel, our inner Frank Castles and get a little angry. And maybe talk about in full spoilers some things that didn't quite work for us, because I think we are so wonderfully blessed to be able to watch these things early and talk about them in a spoiler-free capacity, but sometimes it can also be kind of frustrating for us as well, where we're dancing around trying to make a point of what we're trying to talk about in a spoiler-free capacity without saying what we actually want to say. So here's your opportunities for either of you. What were some things that maybe in full spoilers didn't quite land this season?
Well, I've already kind of talked about the visual effects in the opening scene that I think just kind of distracted from what was meant to be a really emotional moment. And it still hit. That emotion still hits. It's just I wish it again kept the rawness that we know and love from Daredevil, and just focused more on that and that actual like that loss that he was about to experience. So I don't know. It didn't need to be so visual effects heavy in that moment, but I think as we were just kind of touching on, I think the introduction of Muse was interesting, but I wasn't crazy about how they used his character throughout. In the spoiler free, we talked about like there was a balance between bringing some of these characters in and not using them very heavily throughout. It was almost like a reintroduction to say, hey, they live in this world. You might see them again, like a Frank Castle. But with Muse, like again, from the marketing, it felt like he was sort of this underlining threat, and I think he intentionally was meant to be that. And I think that there was probably more of a sense of connection between what Muse was doing and what Daredevil was doing and what Kingpin was doing. Like the Muse is sort of a result of both of them, vigilantes and of sort of the criminal organization that feels like it's taking away from maybe something that's happened to the Muse's, who I believe his actual name was Sebastian. I don't remember his last name, but that said, he was really interesting, very eerie, very creepy.
Those
I really
eyes,
loved
bro.
us, man. Those eyes and what he did and the way he killed his victims was
Yeah.
hella creepy. But then literally we get to one episode and then everything is just kind of being resolved. After
Yeah.
we get through that fight, everything is just sort of like, here's who he is. And you knew kind of, because there was that introduction of him in that first, I think it was the first or second episode, where he
We even
approaches
see him in the
Heather.
background in like the first episode, pretty sure. Like we see him painting one of those murals.
Oh yes, absolutely. He's anytime there's painting and there's a person, it's him.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. But again, like to seed plant it and only get us to like maybe two sort of moments where we really get to see him, and then suddenly it's like we're gonna wrap this story up. I don't know if that was a really good way to treat this character, and a big exposition dump. Like that where they're explaining who he is and how he came and he knows Taekwondo. I was just like, okay, we're just like fast tracking getting this character out. It was like, okay, he's not going to end up living through this episode. So it's like, let's get to it. So I don't know. I felt like the way they treated him, the way they could have done more with him and made him matter more. And I feel like he probably did in an original take of this series.
Yeah, my biggest issue with it, again, is with how fast they wrapped up his whole storyline. Because again, the seed planting and the lead up to it was so great about how they were just hiding him in plain sight for the longest time, and then we start peeling back these layers, and all of a sudden the layers get blown open and it's wrapped up. It was too fast. Like, give me another episode where he is, taunting Matt from the shadows or whatever, and just constantly
Taunting
him
Kingpin
and
too.
Kingpin.
Yeah.
They can, neither of them can get there, stop this leak or whatever. It was weird for them to rush that so much, and I feel like it was, again, a disservice to the character. Well, he didn't have much of a run in the comics. At least the comics gave him the time to resonate and antagonize Matt.
Well, and it's interesting because, and I'm pretty sure I have my facts straight here, but Muse was an element that was always in the show, and my thinking is that a lot of the moments we see with the actual Muse in the mask isn't Hunter Doohan, who is the unmasked version of Muse, at least at the beginning. I think there was definitely maybe some stuff added or what have you, but Hunter was brought on. He's from Wednesday, by the way, if you've watched Wednesday. He was brought on during that mid-production shakeup. So I feel like they must have just had him come in, film some extra scenes with Heather, and they kind of worked together to kind of create this somewhat semblance of a through point narrative. But I think, to your point, Justin, especially with the all that exposition that was just sort of dumped on us, it didn't feel as clean as it should have been. And I also felt like there was a bit more of a slower burn that should have had a bigger payoff, because there's like two separate like sort of end credit sequences, not end credits, but just before the credit sequences of seeing him like look to the camera, and then it's like, okay, we get it, you don't need to do this twice. So as much as I wanted him to hit for me, he didn't as much. And I also want to just shout out the Adam stuff. For me, was another part of this story that just felt really sloppy and really messy. I think it was meant to serve as a point of contention between Vanessa and Wilson, and I think it really also worked out to be an outlet for Wilson, for him to, not have to hold back his darker side. He could sort of still have that dirty secret while still being a politician. So I loved all that, those elements to it. I just felt like overall, it sort of felt like a bit of a nothing burger sort of revelation. She finds out, she shoots him. I will say, Islet Zerher, who was also brought on during the mid-production shakeup, was brought in. So they obviously filmed that sequence maybe a little bit disconnected. But I will say, the fourth or fifth shot to the head after when she killed him, I was like, that's a bit much.
It was the last one that really just like was like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah,
she crossed him. She like 1, 2, 3, and then the last one was in the head, and it was like, whoa.
You know what?
That was cool.
It made me feel like they were meant for each other in that moment. I'm like,
That's
okay,
exactly
her and
it,
Fisk
yeah.
really are meant to be together.
Oh, and the framing too, when they're kissing, and just in the little gap, you see the body and the blood.
Yeah,
stream. It's
and
like,
his
oh,
head
that's
sort of out of focus. Yeah,
that's cute, I guess.
Like, I think it's similar to your experience with the Muse thing, Justin, where I'm like, I loved how that resolved, but I don't think it really worked that well throughout the entirety of the story. I felt like
Yeah.
there was missing pieces.
I would like to clarify. I did not like how the Muse was resolved.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it was.
But that final sequence you said worked for you, though. Like
the final
fight
sequence with the fight sequence in when they first confront each other in the subway.
Oh, okay.
Is
Yes,
the most.
yes.
The one in the office was so arbitrary. It was just like it needed to happen so that it could happen. It did throw me for a loop that Heather was going to kill him. But you know that again, whatever. It just I feel again, even the fact that they killed him, like it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
but,
it's the fact that we're not going to get any more from this character.
Exactly. I was hoping that we would.
They set him up so well, only to take him away so fast.
Exactly, and I think that there could have been more to explore there. But in regards to the Adam thing, yeah, I think that worked for me because it almost looked like it, like you said, Nate, like his dirty secret, the way he's able to still stay Kingpin without having to like admit to it.
It's when he starts breaking his diet, is going down there for dinner with Adam.
You're
like,
right. Yeah,
he's eating the
like,
egg whites and everything, and then all of a sudden he goes
big.
down and has this rich seafood platter, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's such a great call out, Darcy. I love that you noticed that, because I didn't really put two and two together, but that makes a lot of sense. It even
cheating on his diet. Wow.
He's cheating on a lot of things.
Okay,
he's cheating on his whole lifestyle.
Forget everything I said. I actually like it all now.
No, but that's like him cheating on his mayoral lifestyle, right? Like even when you got to see like his hands and his knuckles in those moments, it's like, what is he doing? Like, who is he beating? And then when Adam came in, I was like, oh, it has to be Adam. Like, it has to be Adam. And when they did that reveal, I was like, yes. I thought it was super cool that he was like, again, he was just keeping him to the side. I think the point of what you're mentioning about it just being a nothing burger, I think again, it was closure for them. Like their relationship, like it was for them, that was the thing that they needed to bring closure on, was the fact that, you know, she had an affair with this guy. He does not like anyone touching his stuff, especially his wife. And, you know, I think she knew that. And, you know, I think he knew that she knew that. So they needed to resolve that, because the quiet moments that these two characters have to show that they know more, like the instances when they're just like, I know. It's like, what do you know? What do you know? What are you talking about that you know? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but they, like, you know, obviously they in the context of whatever's happening, we understand what they mean. But, you know, that said, it just those moments that they have with each other really did feel very authentic, and that they were very much trying to rebuild their relationship.
Yeah.
And I think Adam added to that closure. So yeah, I could see how it wouldn't work for everyone, but I think for me, it didn't bother me too much. It just was that, again, it was that dirty secret that Kingpin had.
One of the things I like that came from that too, like I said, when he broke his diet, that's when I started noticing as the season went on, he got bigger. He had to let his suits out and stuff like that. Like he was really stepping back into that Kingpin impressive beast of a man form, and I thought it was really cool visual storytelling.
I did think though that was like some sort of hint that he's been juicing on something, right? Like
Super soldier serum.
Yes, because, you know, there was that running, like, that theory that's how he kind of survived, and he had a speedy recovery from his eye, and that there was something that happened.
Makes sense. But also in the comic books, he's just more physically inclined man. Like he's more muscle than man.
Yes, exactly. Is that he's just got brute strength, right?
Yeah,
fucking guy can crush a man's hand. So
he's just the mountain before the mountain was a thing.
Exactly.
Well, listen, I think you've both turned me around on a lot of the Adam stuff. I do still think there's stuff missing. I will say that, but I do really like
You're right. It does show. You're right. It does show that, and I think that can be said about the entire season, though. right? Like,
Yes.
is
For
that
sure.
there's elements throughout that show that this has been retooled and reworked. So just to kind of go off of that. Sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah, but the one thing that I did want to just quickly mention before we move on is, Darcy, you had mentioned, or I don't know, one of you had mentioned seeing Fisk's hands bloodied, and I didn't
Mhm.
put that together literally until this conversation. But then even the emphasis on hands, we hear during their discussion where Vanessa's like, his hands, oh my gosh, his hands, ah, and you see Fisk staring at his hands, and his, for Fisk, for D'Onofrio, that's a very specific character choice that's followed the character of Fisk throughout every time we've seen him, is the
Yeah.
twitching hands and the
Yeah.
fingers sort of moving, and when he gets angry. And so I really actually love that connective tissue. So you guys are turning me around. There's definitely some stuff that they did really well with the writing in that moment and
Mhm.
the framing. But yeah, I would have liked to have just kind of had that be a little bit more. Let's talk about our favorite moments of this season. I think I'll leave it to either of you if you want to kick it off with one of yours. I don't
I
know.
think I'll kick mine off because mine might start a bit of a lengthy discussion. But my favorite moment was that Yusuf Khan episode, that bank heist
Oh,
episode.
buddy.
While it feels very disjointed from the rest of the season and the tone, it
That's perfect
it,
though.
it worked so
Yeah.
well. I don't know why. Like I got at first I see him pop up. I'm like, really, this is happening now? Is it going to go too dark, or is Kamala going to lose her dad in some horrific like bank heist? But no, it was just a fun bank heist, like Die Hard adventure with Daredevil and Yusuf, and I loved it. Like,
Bro,
oh, so good.
he had a freaking custom Funko Pop of his daughter on his desk. Like,
It just the humor of him showing a blind guy, like, look, this is her. I can't see. Well, it is. Just trust me. Like,
and also
I love it.
shout out to the writers for not only getting Charlie Cox to be able to do an Irish accent on screen, but also just the idea that they're like, we're gonna do a St. Patrick's Day episode. It's gonna be a bank heist, and it's gonna be a bunch of Irish gangsters pulling off this bank heist. I thought it was really, really well done, and yeah, it was one of those moments where I was actually really okay with how disconnected it
Yeah.
felt. But then they did manage to, and I think this was a late in production addition, that final sequence of the guy
Yes,
walking
to bring
out,
it back around.
right,
Yeah.
to bring it back around. I thought that was really smart. And if that was an adaptation of them, sort of forcing this somewhat disconnected feeling episode into the overall narrative, kudos to Scarta Payne and the writing team for that, because that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that episode is perfect. It's like it's not, sure, not much happens, but it's a nice side quest mission, and it gets us, introduced to another character in the MCU, a very unexpected character, and it's just great how they were able to intertwine that story. It wasn't, a Luke Cage or Spider-Man or Peter Parker. Like, it was, Yusuf Khan, right, who's just doing his job, and Matt Murdock is just doing, like, he's there to get more money for his firm, and then suddenly stuff goes crazy, right? And I think it just highlights again what Sana said in our interview. It's just what comics do it all the time. Like, there's these situations that happen where unlikely characters will cross paths, and I think this episode is an excellent example of that. And it just highlights again, like, this sort of side quest nature. I was saying, like, is it a bottleneck episode or no? Is that,
I mean,
that wouldn't
kind
necessarily?
It's kind of a bottle episode.
Kind
Yeah.
of. Usually, I think a bottleneck episode would focus on like a separate character to the overall plot, but it kind
Sure.
of did, right? With
Yeah, it
Yusuf. So
did.
I would
Yeah.
say yes and no for that, for sure.
I would almost say, like, in the same sense, it just, like, as you guys were mentioning, it just deviates from the overall story, but then brings itself back around at the end. So it's like, I don't know. I think that's a great way to kind of, interject some of these episodes to keep it
Mhm.
feeling fresh. Cause, like, there is a pretty big consistency of, like, just even like the first, 3 episodes, especially with like White Tiger and stuff like that, how that structure worked, that felt very law procedural. So, like, to come into, like, I believe it was episode 5, where we get the Yusuf Khan.
I believe that's the one, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's 5 and 6 were released together.
Correct. And
Mhm.
the fact that they're releasing those two together it really does make sense as well, because they're sort of, they influence one another. And it, St. Patty's Day, like I'm pretty sure that episode's going to drop after St. Patty's Day, but still it's going to be in the month of March potentially. So
You'll
it makes sense.
get your your Shamrock Shake from McDonald's, sit down and enjoy a wonderful. Justin, don't for a second tell me that you saw the ending of that episode coming with the candy. Don't for 1 second tell me you were just caught off as caught off guard as I was.
I was caught off guard with
Good.
the candy, and then that
Good.
that he dropped the jewel in there. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But it was like, I don't know. It wasn't necessarily something that I anticipated, but I knew that they were going to bring some way of like a full circle of.
Yeah, it was
of
going to
things.
resolve. We weren't
Yeah.
going back to that storyline. So
Yeah.
I do like how they buttoned it off. But again, that final scene shows that Matt was still battling with this darkness. It hasn't gone away. And again, the fact that they're dropping the 2 episodes together is just, this is a nice mid-season little break, breath of fresh air before we get right back to the gritty last half of the season.
Exactly.
A moment that I want to bring up that I shouted out a little bit in our spoiler-free, but in a spoiler-free capacity. Justin, you brought up Hector Reala, and I want to shout out episode 3. We talked about Camar de los Reyes, who is no longer with us, but did such a great job in this show and gave some really excellent performances. And I think his monologue hits so well that he shares with Matt. And him talking about his perfect place with the beaches in Puerto Rico and the cookie frogs chirping and the waves. And then we get to the final shot of episode 3, and we get that incredibly shocking bullet to the head moment. And for a second, we're just caught off guard. I love that there was no music. There was nothing. It was just the waves and the cookie frogs chirping. And that stuck with me. Like, that was like, I sat back and was like, damn, like they did that. And that just really, I don't know, it hit for me for some reason. I think it was a combination of his performance and that moment that just really, really struck a chord.
Again, it's another voice of a vigilante, someone that knows what Matt's going through, and the fact that he is going through this law case that Matt's fighting for. It's so close to home that obviously anything he says is going to resonate. And again, just the fact that they do that to follow it up with his immediate demise is just it's crazy to experience. And the fact that they also tease to try and lead you in the direction that it's the Punisher who did it, and you're just sitting there like, no, not Frank. Frank couldn't do this. He'd like White Tiger. White Tiger's cool. What happened? Oh no. And it's just, yeah, it left me gutted when I first saw that the finale for that episode. It was incredible.
Well, think about it. By episode 3, you've lost Foggy and you lose White Tiger, and you actually care about White Tiger, right? Like, you have empathy for him. You understand that like what he was doing was for good, but in that one situation, he was just being himself, trying to help someone out, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the outcome that would come from that, where he would be seen as innocent, even as the jury knows that he is White Tiger. And hearing all of these testimonies, it was such a great episode to kind of like, who's going to fight for Matt in the same way, is what I would always wonder, right? Because Matt was really in the corner for Hector and wanting to see him free. And I think that at the end of the day, that's another like character that we didn't get to spend too much time with, but his loss was echoed through the remaining episodes in terms of how it affected Matt. So I think that that's another one of those instances very similar to like Foggy, where it's just like, it's just fuel to the fire of the sort of emotional break that Matt's going through in this season.
Well, it's like everything is fighting him. Everything is fighting him to keep him going back to his darker self, right? And you've got this character of Hector Ayala just sort of reminding him that the justice system doesn't quite work. And Foggy, that was a reminder. Hector was a reminder. We get a moment with Leroy, who had a great line of being like, maybe it was a Skrull. Could it have been a Skrull? Like, I thought that was a cute little nod to the overall MCU. We get a bunch of those this season. But I just think like the line specifically, willing to spend 5 times more to put me away than they are to feed me, from Leroy, really, really hits Matt pretty hard. And I think they did a really good job of sort of peppering in all these moments to sort of push Matt further and further to the outcome that we end up in the finale.
Yeah, Leroy was in episode 4, right? He was the was he the
He was the
guy,
gentleman that stole the popcorn.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The popcorn,
Because he just
right?
wanted something sweet to eat, you know?
Right. And like, again, like I loved how wholesome that whole situation was.
Yeah.
Like obviously Leroy is going through something, but at the same time, it's just, again, like you think of Daredevil, Marvel, it's fantastical cases, murders and stuff. Like I just like that there was something a little bit, more semblance of like looking after a person in this case that didn't have a necessary, we just got off the heels of like the Hector case with White Tiger, and now we're into something a little bit more again, maybe street level if you want to call it that. So I think that again, the way they balanced that sort of courtroom procedural element in throughout was really interesting. They just sort of like you said, peppered it in ways.
Well, and speaking of pepper, I don't know where I was going. I was going to try to make a link to food and teeth. I want to bring up the tooth of it all.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't handle the tooth because holy crap, man!
I don't understand how
moment-
much pressure he could generate with his mouth.
I
Like,
don't quite get it.
how?
There's
still
some
was
moments.
cool. It was
there's
really
some
cool moment.
moments
Probably
this
what kept
season-
him alive in prison, though, the pressure in his mouth. I'm just gonna
Oh, God.
Jeez. Oh, God. Okay. But I will say there are definitely some moments in Daredevil in general where there is more of that suspension of disbelief. I think the moment when he's feeling up the sketches or paintings and he recognizes that's Heather, I get it. Like that's something that he can feel. I completely feel
Well,
that.
it only took the oil painting for him to actually realize that. He went
Okay.
through all of them until he found the textured one.
Okay,
where
so then
would actually
maybe
use the oil
all
to
right,
build
okay.
the
because
bone.
that's when they
Yeah,
flashed in the element of like him doing it in the morning when
Yes,
he like was
is
running
when he's
the-
touching the
because
the
he like
raised textured one.
we could see the pictures and understand, but he kept flipping through them like I don't know who this is, and then when he got to one he was like, oh, right, and it was because of the oil painting style that it
All
was.
right,
That's how
okay,
you
well-
use the texture to build the
Yeah.
bone structure.
I
Yeah.
guess that's more realistic then. But the tooth
Yeah,
being
yes,
shot
yes.
through a person's face, I don't know. I don't
Come
know.
into his
dog.
eye socket.
Come on.
It didn't
It's
kill
the
him. It just
MCU. If we
he
get-
was alive after that too, so it wasn't like it was an instant kill.
Sure,
I think it was
he still had to separate the scissors and
Yeah,
throw them.
exactly.
It was awesome. I will say
Anything,
it all
bullseye throwing anything is great.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
it all led to him in that blue light, right? And he's there with the rifle. And I just thought that was so intriguing that, again, I brought up the concept of lighting in our spoiler free about the red light, for Daredevil and for Blood, and the amazing shot of Frank when he slices that dirty cop's neck and the blood gets splattered on the wall, and then a red light just appears out of nowhere for some reason. Awesome. I don't know if it came off of a door opening or whatever. I don't care. But seeing Bullseye, in the cop uniform, right, and then with the rifle and that blue light, it just all hit really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, shifting the aspect ratio during that moment too. Like,
Ugh.
a lot of those big moments or fight scenes where they're slowing down and really drawing focus, they really do a good
Yeah,
job of
it
making
was
those moments hit.
Yeah, it was a sensory experience, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's very much what it was meant to do. The use of the lighting, I think, also just highlights these characters as sort of, opposite ends and to a certain degree, right? Like I think that it gives them a bit of a, like, it just highlights that sort of rivalry between Bullseye and Daredevil, and I think it's cool that we're still talking about Poindexter in this show.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a couple other moments that I want to bring up, but they're kind of in the finale, so I'll hold off. Do you have anything else that you wanted to mention from throughout the season that just was like blew you away?
Yeah, I mentioned two of it. I think I think that Muse fight is pretty solid. And I think that was like probably, again, one of the best examples of something that felt really raw and hand to hand, as well as like in episode 2 when he's trying not to lose his shit on those cops, and then he ends up like breaking this guy's arm
It
and like
broke his
literally
neck,
smashing
dude. His
Yeah,
neck was
did he-
horizontal on the floor.
Well, the guy that he smashed on the floor at the end, he ended up talking to in the next episode in the bathroom.
How?
Yeah.
How is
So
that
it was
guy
the same,
not
but
done for
the
life?
other cop, he definitely mangled, and he broke that arm, and you see the blood, like sort of thing. Like, it was wild.
That's where
So,
my
like,
pull quote is in front of,
Yeah,
which was
yeah.
awesome to see. I showed my mom that pull quote because I was so proud of it, and she's like, "Oh, why'd you show me that?" And I'm like, "No, watch the 3 minutes or seconds after that." But, anyways, yeah.
It was like it's again, it was very, like, those moments really stood out, and even just that, like, again, in that opening fight between Bullseye and Daredevil when they are going through that tight hallway and the staircase, like I was talking about before, that was really, really great. The other things that really stood out to me about this, we've kind of already talked about, and I guess the rest of it would probably be in the finale. So I'll
Okay.
hold off on talking about it.
Yeah. Well, I think, Darcy, you had brought up that you noticed about the dinner and the egg white and then the full meals. And I wanted to kind of bring up talking about some different Easter eggs or things that we noticed. I think there's always going to be the new rock stars of the world that are going to catch the Rogers the musical still on the billboards. It must be very successful.
It probably would be. I mean, most of those Broadway shows last for 3 or 4 years in Times Square, going through multiple casts.
For sure. And if you're in the MCU and this stuff's happening all over the place, like it's like the
come
Lion
back for
King.
revivals for sure.
It's the Lion King of the MCU. But there's also a Pingo Doce ad, which is that Green Mountain Dew stuff from the Incredible Hulk that's throughout the MCU. The one that I wanted to bring up that I really, really enjoyed, Darcy, you and I are huge pin collectors. We love a good pin, and whenever I see a pin in a show, I wake up, I pay attention. And so I wanted to shout out Fisk's lapel throughout the show. We see him wearing 2 pins when he gets into office at the beginning of his term as mayor of New York. He's wearing an American flag, and the other one is a gold apple, which I think are there to represent his 2 sides. The American flag is proudly on display as he's being the best mayor, ever in New York, and he's listening to the people, and he has to listen to that awful choir singing "We Built This City," which was so painful.
And hear it again later on the same day.
Yeah, but it was like it was in a different language.
Latvian.
Yeah, because it was Latvian, like, Awareness Day or whatever, Culture History Day. Him fixing potholes, and we sort of see that, but then we start to see him transition back into the crime lord, back into the kingpin, and you notice his American flag by the end of the final episode
Isn't there.
The moment that he's literally crushing Commissioner Gallo's head, which was unbelievable, right? Reminded me of the moment with spoilers for The Boys, the moment with Homelander killing the guy and the crowd cheering in The Boys, seeing those cops, like, the most reaction they got was that one guy almost puking, but other than that, they didn't do anything as they're watching this commissioner's head get crushed. And you see he's wearing a white suit, obviously covered in blood like always, but just the gold apple signifying he's there. He is the kingpin. And I just thought that was such a cool, like you said, Darcy, with him having to get bigger and bigger and the suits getting bigger and bigger, those visual nods, that visual storytelling that they do through even something as simple as costuming is so cool.
Well, shout out to Vincent D'Onofrio, though, because when he's like, "I love New York," and he smiles like a socially inept person. It's like, bro, you ain't fooling no one.
I thought he was going to break out into like da, 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 da,
right, or like when he goes to these black tie events or these presentations where people are singing against children, and he's just like, yes, like he's smiling. It's like you can tell, like, as obviously as fans of the show, we know who the Kingpin is. We know that that's not who he is, and we can see right
suffering
through it.
in those moments.
Suffering. Yeah, he is suffering, and I think that that's what's really great. Is like, for us as the fans, we recognize that this is not he's not vibing with this at all, right? No. So it's just a matter of time before, of course he needs to have someone that slept with his wife in a basement that he can go pummel the shit out of, right? So you know what I mean? Like, just brutally take out all of his.
When he gives him the axe, bro.
He's like, "I'll give you a chance. Let's go," right? He's like, man. Yeah, and that didn't help. God, no. So,
yeah. Were there any other moments that you guys noticed throughout the season that you wanted to kind of bring up, or any Easter eggs or little things that you caught that were like, "Oh, that's cool"?
I caught an Officer Morales which
Yep.
which was like, again,
Could it
Morales is a
be?
pretty popular name, but
That's
like,
true, especially in New York, I'm sure.
yeah, I'm sure. But like at the same time, it's like someone would have to have known putting those two together would have probably had some sort of like little, hey, let's give them this little Easter egg. We'll do Officer
That's
Morales.
probably fully intentional, but I don't see it paying off in
For
any
sure.
way anytime
I
soon. At the very
don't think
least.
so either. Yeah.
More to say like that, like we know about the name, guys. Let's move on. I think it's cool that we got a Spider-Man nod. When he's talking about Kingpin's ranting about vigilantes. That was pretty cool. It's disappointing that we probably won't ever see anything like that come potentially, depending on
They'd
how
have to strike up a deal again with them for TV. That would
if
be
Kingpin becomes the enemy of the next Spider-Man movie. But if you were saying the other day off air, Justin, that they were talking about how Spider-Man, they want to do that multiversal lean or bigger picture thing. So not so much
because
street level.
it's going to be in between. It's going to be happening in between Doomsday and Secret Wars. So there's some influential stuff that Spider-Man will probably have to deal with. It's not to say that we won't hear or see the Kingpin, which could be very likely. And I think that they do want to try to find a way to bring those characters into the fold, but it could be something that is like a crossover movie event where we do see these characters coming together. But to your point, rather than just like an event where they're kind of crossing paths or they're interacting with each other, I'd like to see a story where it's like, as we'll probably talk about at the end here, like there is an army that is going up against Fisk, and I'd like to see Spider-Man as part of that army, right? I would like to see that, but obviously in television it can't happen. So, if it needs to be in film, then just let's make that happen.
Yeah, and again, like before we saw Jack Duquesne. We did see Swordman in the back, and that was pretty cool. Again, another character. It's like I'd love to see more of him in swordsman form as opposed to just some found footage we got. But I guess they're saving that for a season 2 because I could definitely see Frank Castle bust him out, being like, "Okay, you're kind of cheesy with the sword, but you can kill people, so let's go."
Jacques Cousteau.
Well, I think let's get into the finale. Let's get into what's next. I've got some questions surrounding what's next, but before we do, what a fantastic final episode. I kind of broke my rule a little bit. Sorry, I did mention the head crushing, which I'm pretty sure is in the finale.
You totally took my favorite moment, dude.
I'm so sorry, Justin. I wanted to jump in and shout out, I think, and I'm sure it's going to be one of our favorite moments from the finale. But I will say, Justin, you'd mentioned how a lot of times going through this season, it sort of felt like, oh, is this going to be a one-off? Like, are we ever going to see Jack again? Are we ever going to see Frank after that, sort of one sequence where he visited him and he had that big beard and big hair? And I love that he's, did you do that for me? The aftershave and the whatever. And he's, yeah, I did it for you, Red. I think, we were so worried I was so worried that it was going to be a one and done. So getting to see him in there and he's like, I'm looking for a damn cup of coffee. And I was so relieved. Seeing them fight together was so incredible because it was basically Matt working next to someone he's fighting so hard not to be. And I love that dynamic. Hearing Matt say, like, when he's like, Frank, stop. I'm like, Matt, the guy literally just said, I'm going to chop these people into pieces. Like, he's not going to stop. Like, what do you really think is going to happen there? You can't stop him. He's going to kill all these corrupt clowns. But I love their dynamic. And I thought that action sequence was incredible. The buddy cop element of them jumping out of a window and landing on a car to avoid an explosion. I just thought that whole entire sequence was absolutely fantastic.
Again, and just the highlighting the difference between the two about how he's like Punisher is killing left, right, and center. Like we cut between Matt knocking a guy out and Punisher putting a bullet through someone's head, or like even that wall scene where Matt has to duck around the wall. Frank goes and just shoots through the wall. Like boom, there we go. Like it's so cool. It was so well done. And then seeing it again, Punisher's last charge, I guess, at the end there, another wicked fight scene where he's just full on animal, like you guys said, cutting that guy's throat open. Just it's so visceral and brutal. I loved it.
And can we acknowledge the writing just being so damn fire in that moment? The idea of like, what is it? You admire me. You think you know my loss. You think you know my pain. Right. And then one at a time, they go up and just smash him in the face. And he's like, I'm still here. I'm still here. No, I'm pretty sure they all took turns smashing his face in.
That's my favorite episode because we get that team up. The fight choreography is insane. We don't see any real like cheesy CGI in any of the fight sequences. You might get a little bit as they swing out or fly out of the window, whatever. But at the end of the day, it wasn't distracting from what was like a brutal bloodbath of a fight. And it, again, just to see, like you pointed out, Nate, like just the difference in highlighting the difference between them and their approach. He doesn't want to kill people, but obviously Punisher doesn't give two shits about that. He's going to kill. I think it was great to see that on full display, and I think it's refreshing and hopeful that if they do decide to do a Punisher special, like a Marvel special, whatever it is, whatever
Presentation,
a Marvel special presentation for the Punisher, that it would very much be in that style and in that vein of blood and just pure gore. Like it was
black
awesome.
and white but red.
Do an MCU raid.
Sure, yeah, that would be cool. That would be awesome if they did that,
sick.
and it would be I think a good like 2-hour special would be dope. I don't know if I don't think an hour. I think
like
an hour.
It starts with the Marvel logo in the red, and then it just sort of zooms in through through the red. Right, and it's just like that black and white, but just with the red filter over top.
Right.
And then the blood is black. Whoa!
Just give me a raid MCU style,
dude.
Like Punisher fighting his way out of a building.
That'd
be so badass.
That would be totally cool. It just, anyways, just all this to say that the way they treated Punisher in this fight sequence is really really great for the future, because I think that means that they can go the distance with that and maybe even make it even that more. And like you mentioned, like the way that Kingpin crushes Commissioner Gallo's head, like even just that was like shocking that they actually did it. And like I will say, like throughout I was expecting more of that, and we got little glimpses of it, but I can see that they really saved a lot of that for this finale, and like that it makes sense. So it all worked out, and it all worthwhile, and I'm looking forward to when people start talking about this finale, and just you're gonna see that meme of just like
it was mind blowing or mind crushing.
Exactly.
Is gonna be.
Right, exactly.
Dabbing his face, there's a hanky. Like nothing got on your face, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like, how many white suits do you own, Fisk? Like I know we've seen him like go through his closet before, and he's just got tons of white suits, but it's almost like a cartoon character at this point, where you're just
but that's he's playing up to the comic look, though.
Sure.
Right? Like in the comics, he always had a white suit, so it's
always.
like I think that's them leaning into that, just like they're leaning into the various costumes for Daredevil, right? So like I think it's crucial to that. When you saw him in the gray and the blue and the black, he's not.
I liked his like Hawaiian look, his like vacation.
Sure,
look.
that was still fun. A white suit, but like
sure,
you know what I mean. Like I'm just mean like when you saw him in the mayoral sort of role, he was wearing traditional, exactly, right? And he's wearing traditional suits, and then as soon as he started like bringing in the white, that's where you start to see that crossover of like, I'm now going to be the Kingpin, who's the mayor of New York, right? Like
Mayor Kingpin.
Mayor Kingpin. There you go. That's it. So
well, let's talk about what's next. I think I've got a few questions here about some specific characters. I will just quickly say, at the very end of the finale, before we got to the mid-credits thing, that slow sequence to everything in its right place was so well done, and I loved the panning slow shots of the words in correlation to the characters. Resist on Bullseye, like resist that demon inside of you, right? Rebel, Frank, he will always be, that rebel. And then rebuild for Karen. And because she is that for Matt, she's always, it's Foggy and her are those characters that help him to get back to where he needs to be, whether that's the vigilante side of him or the other side. But I really, really liked how they played that out, and I just wanted to shout that out. But they also slow panned on Angela, and I wanted to ask either of you, is she part of this army that we're talking about? Is she going to be the next White Tiger, or is she going to be responsible for the next White Tiger? What do you think?
Again, if they're following comics, I do believe that his niece does take up the mantle after his sister even, but the White Tiger mantle will be passed on, and again, with the focus that we seem to be getting on the younger side of things, I wouldn't be surprised if she is the one to take up that mantle, at least maybe after some time fighting, as a person before a vigilante.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to happen next season,
No.
but I think that it's something that they're going to work towards. I know there was a lot of rumors about Jenna Ortega being his niece and having or being the White Tiger.
Oh wow.
And that's a big get, but I think they might, if they're going to get her, they might get her for something that maybe might be more mutants related down the road. Who knows? But like that said, yeah, I think it's clear that she's going to have something to fight for in this, and it's, you know, that's pretty clear. But also, you know, BB's going to be involved in this as well in some capacity, and I think we're going to see a range of. I'm interested if those two characters' paths are really going to cross, and they might have more of a sort of. That could be a bottleneck episode, you know, where we're following them and they're doing something for the army, for Matt's army, or the Daredevil army, if you will.
Well, because you know, I was looking into it a little bit too, and you're absolutely right, Darcy, in that like there's like a sister for Hector Rayala, and then the niece, and the niece in the comics is Angela Del Toro. I didn't get the opportunity to go back and look at the credits to see if they did give Angela a last name. I don't think they did, so I'm wondering if they're going to MCU it and keep it up in the air so that if they can secure an Ava Ayala to be the White Tiger, and she is the sister, she is the aunt to Angela, or maybe they do MCUify it. And you talk about this all the time, Darcy, that you love how the MCU takes the comics and puts its own spin on it to make it its own. We get a slow pan on Buck as well. Darcy, I sent you a quick article that I didn't want to read because I want you to tell me about it, because I figured you might have a little bit more knowledge. But the internet has been ablaze ever since seeing that headshot on that one gangster. Just pretend that the internet was ablaze, okay? I understand Justin at the beginning of the episode ruined the allure, the mystery that we are in the future, but we got that moment with him shooting that one gangster, and you know, a lot of people have been calling out the fact that it is Buck Cashman. Do you see him becoming the Bullet in the next season, like people are anticipating, and being on Wilson Fisk's army as the Bullet?
I mean, for sure. We've already seen. I wouldn't be surprised if Bullet was already a past code name of his. If he did, he's clearly worked in the military somehow or something. All these, you know, crossbone type characters tend to do that. Again, this is a departure from the comics, because in the comics he is more of a Kingpin build, 400-pound plus man who is superhuman strength and speed. And this is just very much a guy with a gun. So I do like the twist that they're taking it away from that. And also in the comics, one of the storylines I remember, he was hired by Fisk to take out Save the Earth like organization, like some Greenpeace organization type thing, and he planted a bomb or something like that. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
Like he took out a terrorist act against people who wanted to save the Earth. So it's just, he's not a very good guy in the comics, and I definitely see him following that route in the show for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, because he's putting that gun, you know, in his
Oh, yeah,
suit pocket or whatever.
Yeah, he is definitely Kingpin's go-to killer now after Bullseye. His whole thing didn't pan out so well.
He's one of his many new mentors, right?
Yes,
you know? Exactly. So I feel, or mentorees, or I don't know what they call them. So, but yeah, it's someone that I think he's gonna take under his wing, and he's going to exploit for you know, their skill set to benefit him.
Yeah. Justin, you know, Brandon Davis, you know, friend of ours, I think maybe colleague at least, peer, there we go, peer in the industry. We've met him a couple times. You know, he had a wonderful chat with Brad Winderbaum, and got to get into a bit of things with spoilers. He got to crack the news that both Karen and Foggy are coming back for season 2. How's Foggy coming back? He's dead.
It's definitely a flashback.
Yeah.
Flashback.
I like the idea of a flashback. I was gonna say that I could also see him being that internal compass. Like we've seen Matt in previous seasons of the Netflix show talking to Fisk, and Fisk isn't there. Obviously, it's just in Matt's mind. I'm almost wondering if they do that sort of approach with it, right? Like instead of a dark passenger, it's like a light passenger.
Well, especially after Castle talks about seeing his boy or hearing his boy every morning or every day, telling him to kill everyone. So
yeah,
it'd be cool to see Foggy take more of a role in that, again, that moral compass that Matt so desperately needs.
I don't know. I feel like it'll get a little like I like the idea that Frank talks about that, but we don't see it.
Mhm.
I know that in the past we probably have seen stuff like that in maybe other iterations of Daredevil in like the Netflix series, but I like the idea that maybe, you know, it's not something that we see necessarily, but I don't know. They can go either way with it. Like you were talking about it earlier too, Nate. Like they've obviously moved away from sort of the religious and undertones of the character. The church obviously still matters to Matt Murdock, but like I don't know. It doesn't seem like they've kind of leaning into some of the more traditional I guess like choices that they made in the original series where, you know, they had more choir for like singing and so on and
It
so
was
forth
more
in the
religious,
fourth.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was just more of that implication of the church that has shaped Matt Murdock and shaped Daredevil's character. So yeah, I'm wondering if they just keep it sort of they keep it to a flashback of some kind. It would be wild if he was actually alive because I think
Bro, no.
if Brad
That's-
no, but I mean like I just mean like in the fact that like think about it like this even too. Like if Brad Winderbaum is mentioning that to Brandon Davis, then that means that he probably comfortably knows that it is actually a flashback sequence. Like he
right.
wouldn't spoil something that is, well, you know what, Foggy's actually alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't think that that's it. So I think that there's going to be something that might, you know, be, you know, dug up in the past that is going to bring them back to that moment that Matt's going to kind of relive and is going to have to maybe solve for or what.
Mhm.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, and it was nice hearing that Karen's coming back as well. You know, I think
That
that was
makes
one of our big
sense.
complaints.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, based off where they end, but I'm just mean like one of our big complaints with the first season was that we didn't get enough of her in this season, and I understand that makes a lot of sense for the story and for where they go. And what a fantastic moment of her stepping out of the car and doing that
For
slow
sure, and that was
turn,
cool. Yeah,
right?
that was and it made it worth like, honestly, her absence made that worthwhile. That's what I meant by when I said in our spoiler-free review, where it's like, not having these characters around all the time does make them matter when they do suddenly pop up. So
Hmm.
her stepping out of that car was like, "All right, you know, like, the band's getting back together here, let's go," right? And I love that. I love that that's it. But I feel like, again, as we step into a part 2, a season 2, chapter 2, whatever you wanna call it, for this series, they need to kind of resolve what they've lost, right? Because it's almost as if, you know, in the first episode when, you know, Poindexter is sentenced, you know, they have this argument and this discussion, and you can clearly tell that they don't know how to deal with the loss of Foggy,
Yeah.
and because they don't know how to deal with it, it's pushed them away from each other. So I feel like, again, there's more to unravel with probably Foggy's death, that we haven't necessarily fully resolved. So we'll see how it unfolds in chapter 2.
Well, and bringing up the Karen of it all before we keep going, I think there's that really excellent moment and really heartfelt, touching moment when Heather, and it's also kind of a sad moment for Heather, but Heather approaches Matt after he's been shot and he's waking up on the hospital bed and he just goes, Karen, right? And he's kind of all his mind's all a little bit drugged up and he's just waking up. I think the other thing to kind of bring up is the fact that Heather, I don't think they're going to be together in season 2. I think they're very much going to be apart. Matt, throughout this season, I talked about, in our spoiler free, and I just how charismatic he is and how like he's risen up that Latvian chick. As he's dating Heather, I'm like, yo, Matt, calm down, bro. Like, you need to just relax. You're with someone right now. So my question is, where do we find
Don't
Heather
be
in
jealous
season
of his
2?
riz.
And where do we find Heather in season 2? And also, does Matt have a new love interest in season 2, or is he going to be with Karen, do you think?
Well, I definitely see Heather finding out more about Matt's alter ego. Like that was clearly her not knowing led to so much of the storylines we got throughout the season. So
Typical.
again, when we see this, it definitely did. Like if he was just a bit more open about his past and stuff like that, she would understand why he's so against Kingpin instead of sounding like this crazy guy.
There were
Like
moments
just
where I'm like, just tell her already. Like,
right. Like
you're
there's so many
putting her
times
in
where like, she
just as much
believe him.
danger.
Yeah. There are so many times where it's like, just tell her solve so many problems going forward. So I
Yeah.
feel like, again, in the second season, we'll see her find out in some way, maybe because she walks in on one of his, war meetings with Karen and all them. But I don't know. It's just I don't see them lasting very long because she is still not dealing with the fact that she killed Muse very well, and it just everything that came from that is going to definitely be resolved in season 2.
Yeah, I totally, I'm with you. I think that she's now chosen a side. I think she talked about in I think it was the episode before she was confronted by Muse though about vigilantes, writing a book about vigilantes and talking about them and sort of studying them as sort of like their psychology and so on for her next book. I don't think she agrees with the approach of that, and I think that that will align with Fisk and what Fisk wants. So that's why he's seeking her. Um, the one thing we'll never know though, and I think that at least I guess it's to be assumed, is the fact that Fisk did confront Heather because he knew about his Matt's relationship with her and chose her to be kind of like his counselor, his marriage counselor. If that's actually true. But you could see towards the end of this season that their relationship was falling apart.
Yeah.
It to me, and that's what I just was going with, is like it felt sort of pretty typical in terms of like how relationships go in these sort of superhero stories, where it's like, I can't tell you who I really am, so we'll just always have distance between us. We'll never actually have trust. We don't really know what's going on in each other's lives because there's distance between us. And you really see it unfold in episode 8 where he jumps in front of, before he jumps in front of Fisk to save him. I think that this when we pick up things in season 2, this relationship is like, it's already stale. There might be some like friendly sort of reacquainting, but I think once he finds out that she's working for Fisk like more closely, he's done. He'll be done.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just as we kind of wrap up our conversation here, I wanted to kind of ask both of you. I was going to ask you about the end credit stinger, what you want to see in that Daredevil special presentation, but we kind of already just like blurted all that out, which is totally fine. We're excited as we should be. But I wanted to ask each of you for one character that you think is a safer bet and one that you think is like absolutely wild to show up in season 2. Are we getting any defenders? Are we getting any wider spread MCU characters?
That's the safe bet, I think, is to say a defender. It's just a matter of which defender.
I'd love to see Jessica Jones come back.
Yeah.
Her series is one of my favorites, but a lot of that comes down to the Kilgrave of it all. But I think seeing Jessica Jones would be great. But if we're going more safer bet, we saw the connection made in episode 5. I feel like Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, while he might not want her there because she's so young, she's going to want to fight for her city just as much as he does. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get her popping up in one moment, just trying to help out and seeing that maybe she's getting in over her head with these mobsters and everything like that.
That would be wild. That
Yeah.
would be crazy. That would be a tough, like Yusuf as a bank, manager who's just visiting because he's taking over for another bank manager. That okay, fine. But to see
cocky Kamala Khan thinking she's the next Avenger, she wants to get in there and
some
make
guy
a difference.
Gets his head shot off, bro. Next,
and that's why she leaves by the end of the episode, being like, "Right, I'll protect my little corner of Jersey. You do you, man."
Yeah, and the other thing too,
interesting.
I'm pretty sure Jersey is a different city to New York, right? Like it's not in the same.
Yeah.
So
they're
it's
across a bridge, right? Isn't that
and she idolizes New York. That's where the Avengers are from.
Exactly.
She'd want to fight for New York.
She would fight for New York.
I like that.
I think that's interesting. I actually think if we see her in this show, she doesn't show any powers. She doesn't reveal that she's Kamala Khan. We know she's Kamala Khan, but maybe Daredevil doesn't. I feel like that could be like an interesting sort of thing, like just to kind of highlight, the sort of small world nature of like a big city like New York. Like they just cross paths somehow and in a situation or something along those lines. And she doesn't want to reveal necessarily what's it called? Oliver. I guess then at the same time, Yusuf's talking about her as if she's a superhero. So whatever. Yeah, I think that's a cool idea, though. I think that's cool. I think that'd be interesting. I just, to Nate's point, I wonder how you make it work within this.
That'd be your nice mid-season breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And again, by the end of it, you realize she's in over her head and she wants to step back. It writes itself.
I do think one of the defenders is probably going to we will see one. I'm either it's Jessica Jones, who I think is a real big fan favorite, and then after that, I think it's Luke Cage, because like people like that show.
And they've already talked about recasting Iron Fist, so I don't don't think we'll be seeing Danny Rand anytime
And I
soon.
think he's going to show up actually in something like a Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Right. And I think then that way you can bring in that sort of like that street level, but like they already started Shang-Chi with a street level and then transitioned him very quickly in his own
To
movie
mystical,
to
yeah.
mystical. So it's like you know what I mean? So I would prefer a more street level Iron Fist. But I think that they're going to probably bring him in on Shang-Chi if they're going to do that.
Well, Matthew Lillard is confirmed for season 2, so maybe he's the new Iron Fist, and they just make the same mistake over. No, I hope he's a really cool character. I'm really looking forward to him playing other. Maybe he's just Shaggy. Who knows?
Maybe he's a reporter. I feel like
maybe he's a reporter. He could totally be a.
I also see him
reporter.
playing a mob boss, like a sleazy, slimy mob guy.
Sure.
Okay.
That would be an interesting role for him. I feel like I don't know how intimidating he could actually be, but maybe
that's why he wants to stretch his toes a bit.
Well,
can do more than just Shaggy.
Yeah, and I think there's something interesting in the idea of like maybe someone who feels like they're not intimidating, but shows their intimidation in other ways.
Kind of like how Michael Gandolfini was this entire season.
Exactly. Yeah. He was like, he evolved to that point where he was like, listen, now I got shit on you, so you better be doing this stuff for me or else, like
you're dead.
He wasn't like that. Like he went dirty very quickly.
My safer bet is a cameo of Jennifer Walters. Maybe not necessarily She-Hulk Jennifer Walters, but Jennifer Walters. I think Tatiana Maslany in a Skype call,
courtroom,
in something. Maybe maybe they have to have one bottleneck episode together. I think could be kind of safe. My stretch, and only it's not really a stretch. It's only a stretch. No, it's only a stretch because we kind of already got it, but I would love Alako Cox to have more to do in the MCU outside of Echo. I just think
that's true.
Her having that, kind of they slightly referenced her, right, as a ward, my ward, they don't learn, they don't listen, or whatever he says. I think it would be awesome to see Echo back, but I just feel like it might be too similar to something that we've already gotten so soon that they're going to not do it. So that's why I think it's a bit more risky.
I think that's very likely to keep them in there. I also think like Kate Bishop or Hawkeye is very likely.
Ooh,
I think just given the fact that was sort of our reintroduction to Kingpin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do have Jack. Is that Jack his name?
Jack DeCane.
Jack.
Yeah, Jack DeCane. We have Jack DeCane from that show back.
I might be mixing up the actor name and the character name, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
It's Jack DeCane.
Is it Jack DeCane is the character name? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's good. Like again, it's very possible that we could see Hawkeye or Kate Bishop show up again in this. I think that's more of the outside MCU, like sort of the big stretch MCU characters that we could see in some way. That'd be interesting. Maybe Ironheart. I don't know. Like,
whoa. Ironheart would be wild.
That'd be out of nowhere. I'm thinking more street level, and Iron Man suit is not quite street level.
Well, what other street level
I think
heroes?
Groot's gonna show up with Rocket. I think they're gonna show up.
Rocket would be. Could you imagine if they did an episode with Rocket
with
and just
Rocket and Daredevil together?
Oh
bro?
My god, that would be insane.
That'd be pretty sick.
That would be insane. That would be post Secret Wars.
Yeah,
for sure.
But listen, I think we could talk about these theories and ideas until season 2 comes out. But we got to wrap it up. We've talked about this quite a bit. We hope you enjoyed this spoiler-filled discussion for Daredevil Born Again Season 1. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this series or any of the shows or movies we cover, well, let me just have Justin put on the tightest leather suit ever and swing around like a rubber man so he can let you know how you can reach us.
Wow, that's an image, my friend. They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or they can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram and TikTok at wearegeekcentric.
Do you think you'd have more of a butt in that suit than Matt Murdock? or do you think he's got a better butt in that suit?
He definitely has a better ass than I do.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely. That's like there's no bet on that.
No.
He's got the cheeks for it. So.
He's got the cheeks.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies and TV shows, and a lot of great interviews to check out as well, including our interviews with the creative team behind Daredevil: Born Again. We spoke with Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who serve as executive producers and directors on the series, as well as executive producer Sana Amanat and executive producer and showrunner Dario Scarta-Payne. And we talked to them about, adapting this series from the Netflix show, what they wanted to maintain or add to the world of Daredevil. And we also talked with Justin and Aaron about what it was like to jump into this show midway through production. We also had the opportunity to talk to the Newton brothers about the incredible score for this series and some of their other work within Marvel television. So it definitely check out those interviews either here on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. You can check out Justin's cheeks right there. The ones on his face. We've got
Thank you
so
for
much
clarifying that. Thank you.
We've got so much more to look forward to, because as you're listening to this, okay, pretend like you didn't hear Justin say that we're recording this right in March. We have our bags packed and prepped as Geekcentric is going to Japan. We're literally flying in the air less than 24 hours from now, from when you're listening to this, and we'll be covering all things Star Wars Celebration, covering the latest and greatest announcements and our experiences in Japan and at the convention. So may the Force be with us. May the Force be with you. And again, it is such a great time to be Geekcentric. So subscribe, follow along, keep an eye on all of our socials. You can watch us. We're going to post a bunch of stuff every step of the way as it's happening. Justin, Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this daring, spoiler-filled discussion. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Peace.